Good evening.
Welcome to Let's Talk Flicks, episode 4. Today's topic is going to be movies of the 90s.
Big one. Big
Yes, it is
one.
a big one. We have a few different categories here. And this is Bobbitt's idea, I really appreciate it. We have a list of underrated, we have a list of our favorites, and we have a list of curios, meaning sort of oddball films.
We'll get into the topics a bit more once we get to that section.
Right. And I just up front, I do want to mention you're going to be thinking there's some movies that we haven't mentioned, but then at the end of it, we're going to list our top 10. So we're going to try and not mention any of those in the lead up to that.
As we're discussing the films, you also might find some big films that we didn't mention, and that may be intentional. And we may touch on that a bit too.
That's right.
Some of the bigger ones that we may not be as big of fans of.
Mm-hmm.
But it is a daunting topic. 90s is so rich for cinema. We really could do multiple parts to this episode. I mean, we could dedicate an
For
entire
sure.
episode to 1999 alone. That was an incredible
I
year for
agree.
film. But we're going to try to give it all one go and see how it goes.
Hopefully, you hear some movies that you haven't heard of and you end up really liking them.
Mm-hmm.
So, is there anything else you want to mention before?
Now let's jump in.
Okay, you start us off with what you've been watching recently.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about, as we always start every episode, the movies we've been watching recently since the last record. I think we both have two movies we watched individually, and then we actually are going to end this segment with two movies we've watched together.
That's right.
Yep, so I'll go ahead and start us off with the first movie I watched alone, and that is 2010, the year we made contact. The 1984 science fiction film sequel to Stanley Kubrick's 2001 A Space Odyssey. I love 2001 very dearly. Could be considered one of my favorite maybe my favorite Kubrick movie. That's discussion for another day probably. But the idea of sequelizing that film seems blasphemous in concept.
Well, they're books.
Well,
Arthur C.
I'll
Clarke.
get into that. So the book aspect is interesting. Arthur C. Clarke, I don't know if you knew this, but he wrote the book 2001 at the same time he was writing the script. He wrote them in tandem. So the book is not based on the movie, and the movie is not based on the book. They were written in unison together. And then he actually wrote 3 more sequels following up to 2001. Only 2010, the second book, is made into a film. I think there's 2 more after that. I think the last one gets more into the aliens themselves, kind of what they're about. I
want to say it's 2021.
Maybe. But as I was saying, it is a daunting film to make a sequel to, an impossible film to make a sequel to, because 2001 is so experimental. It's so radical. That's not really the word I'd like to use.
How can you make a sequel to the end?
Exactly. It has one of the most famously ambiguous endings in all of cinema, up for your own interpretation. So 2010 is a movie that I've always been aware of and have been afraid to watch out of my love for 2001. But I finally gave it a shot and I loved it. My favorite part I would say about it is it gives you answers to the ending of 2001, but not a lot. We still never see the aliens. Pretty much all that's established in terms of what the extraterrestrials are is that it is another intelligent life form and that humans were meant to find the monolith. And that's pretty much all we get about the aliens. And essentially the plot of the movie is they send a rescue crew after the ship from the first movie. If you'll recall, Hal kills everybody except for Dave, and Dave goes into the monolith where he is turned into a space fetus and an old man in the wonderful ending sequence that is truly bizarre and the most ambiguous part of the film, certainly. But the sequel does a really good job. So they send a rescue crew to go back to the original ship. And in that rescue crew is the programmer of HAL and the engineer of the ship. Played by John Lithgow is the engineer of the ship, and then the great Bob Balaban is the programmer of HAL. And I would like to mention, too, this movie has a fantastic cast. It's led by the truly great and legendary Roy Scheider. The more I watch, the more I think he is one of my favorite actors of all time. Roy Scheider is just the absolute man.
Still need to see All That Jazz.
Yes, you have, dude. All That Jazz is like one of the most transformative performances I've ever seen. And he's great in it. Obviously, it doesn't ask him to do a lot. He doesn't go through a ton of character development, whatnot. But obviously, as the captain of the ship, he is a very serviceable lead, and just always love seeing Roy Scheider. And then The whole setup is they're on a Russian. This is a very Cold War movie. That I don't think they predicted that by 2010 the Cold War would be ended for about 2 decades. But essentially, the Russians are going to make it to the monolith. If you remember from the first movie, they visit a monolith near Saturn, and that's where he gets sucked into the wormhole. All that. And the captain of the Russian ship is Helen Mirren in her first American movie ever. She got her SAG card, I read, for this movie. She'd never been in an American film before, and she's playing the Russian general. So she's speaking in Russian, has a very good Russian accent, and obviously is just a delight. So a fantastic cast. They go up to the monolith. They send out a man to get on it. He is killed. They finally make contact with it. Probably, maybe my favorite sequences of the movie, and this may be controversial for other fans of the film or people that don't like it. I know it's not maybe the most
Right. I don't
widely
hear it spoken
accepted.
about much. That's what,
No,
just to, sorry to trail off.
no,
When
please.
you mentioned you watched 2010, I was like, that's such a bizarre, like, I never hear anybody speak about
No,
it.
no, but it should be. I think people are scared of it for the same reason I was, is that it's such a hard movie to make a sequel to.
Right.
You just assume it's going to be bad, and you assume it's going to tell you too much and ruin. The fear would be it ruins the mystique of 2001, right? Like it, the ending is so ambiguous and so wonderful. You want to create your own stories of what happened. And I think the movie does a great job of giving you some answers, but not giving you a lot. So there is
Perfect.
still a lot of ambiguity. There's still a lot of questions. And essentially, what happens in the movie, I just want to discuss this because I really like the plot of the movie.
Okay.
Um, Dave, the astronaut from the first movie that sucked into the wormhole, becomes the
Mm-hmm.
space baby. He begins appearing in these very, very unsettling and creepy sequences throughout the film. He appears in a television first, showing his wife is watching television, and the television kind of statics out, and he appears and says something wonderful is going to happen in 2 days. And then he appears to Roy Scheider on the ship because I guess the setup is Roy Scheider is the guy. He's a recasting from the original movie of the guy who sends the crew into
Mm-hmm.
space. So he feels responsible for the failure of the mission.
Mm-hmm.
But Dave appears to him as when they're up in Saturn at the monolith and says, "You have to leave here in 2 days." And when questioned on why they have to leave, all he says is something magical is going to happen. And he goes through the cycles just like he did in 2001. He appears to Roy Scheider as a space baby. He appears as an old man,
Hmm.
and then he just disappears. And the wonderful thing that happens is all the
Spoiler.
yes, spoiler for 2010. All the monoliths gather together on the surface of Jupiter and essentially create a wormhole that turns Jupiter into a second sun. And if anybody's familiar with the solar system, I thought this was really interesting. The moon of Saturn, Europa. That's a moon we're really trying to study because it's covered in ice. So it has the potential for life, right? There's carbon dioxide, oxygen on the planet. And that is where the aliens are. So we don't ever see the aliens. We don't know who's behind the monoliths, just that they are an intelligent being and that we are meant to find it. And so what happens is Saturn turns into a second sun, which turns Europa into this wonderful tropical paradise. And they send out this communication via Dave that says, "You have unlocked the solar system. Every planet is yours to conquer except Europa." And
Wow.
so that's kind of the plot of the movie. So it does, I think a big theory in 2001 is that the monolith is kind of a test. It's the next evolution in man. And I think 2010 kind of solidifies that theory in that we have achieved far enough technology and good enough space travel that we're able to reach the monolith. So we are rewarded with being able to conquer the solar system.
That's
So
fascinating.
I think that's a really cool idea. And
I'll have
like
to
I
watch
said,
that.
it gives you good resolution to 2001, but it does not give you a lot. You still don't know anything about the beings, really nothing, nothing. It explains nothing about the beings, nothing about the monoliths, how they work, but it does reaffirm that it was a test for humanity to kind of reach that next stage in evolution.
Keeping it ambiguous. I like it.
Yes, yes. So I really, really enjoyed the film, and if you're a fan of 2001, I would highly recommend it. Not as good, obviously. Way more people actually have conversations in 2010,
Right.
humans to humans. But Hal is back. Also, there's some great sequences with Hal, and I would just recommend it. If you're a fan of 2001, I think you really need to see 2010, and I don't think you'll be disappointed. I think it
That's
gives
really
good
cool.
answers. Yeah.
Great rundown. Yeah, you sold me on it. Okay, I've got a huge one coming out to bat. This is maybe the best film I've watched in recent memory. Joint Security Area, film from 2000 by Park Chan-wook of Old Boy fame.
Frequently shortened to just JSA. I feel like I see a lot.
JSA, correct. And it is fantastic. I don't want to give anything away. I'll give the plot synopsis, but something I want to say right out of the bat is you hear about this movie. Let me give the plot synopsis. Plot synopsis is there's an incident that takes place on the border between North Korea and South Korea. People die.
Which in joint security area is a real thing in real life.
It's a real
right?
thing.
Yes,
it's a real place. So you're following.
Is that not also called the demilitarized zone? Is that the same thing?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
You're following these Swiss investigators as they
Okay.
talk to people on both sides, and it's a Rashomon style portrayal because you see the two depositions like in real time, and what each say is obviously contrasting.
Right.
And then you see what really happens in the middle.
Is it kind of told from a neutral third-party perspective, and you see both sides with the
Sort of.
Swiss? Interesting.
There's an event, a catalyst that happens that then shows you reveals what really happens. And something that really shocked me about this film is it is so enjoyable. You think of these movies, you think of these movies of like depositions. You're like, oh, I have to lock in. I'm sure it'll be great, but I don't know if I'm gonna enjoy it. This movie will bring joy to you.
Could kind of feel like an Eat Your Vegetables movie.
Exactly. You know? And it is far from it. It is
great fantastic.
To hear. I could not recommend enough. Something really interesting I heard is in Korea, it's beloved. And I totally understand why. I read a Letterboxd review, so this could be, fiction. A man was talking about working for Samsung, I believe.
Samsung? That's Korean,
in Korea. And, he went to a dinner with these execs, and they all said that was their favorite movie.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
very cool.
Fun fact about it, too, it was presented, the South Korean president presented it to Kim Jong-il in 2007 at a summit.
Interesting.
Which is very interesting.
So then that would give me the impression that it shows both sides of the story. It does not maybe demonize the North Koreans.
It shows both sides of the story.
Okay.
It's a story all to its own.
Right. Interesting.
It's fantastic. It's truly fantastic.
So I feel like if it was a truly like South Korean film demonizing North Korea, they would not present it to Kim Jong-il.
Right.
Or Un, whichever it was at the time.
It was ill. Yes. You're right. It's Park Chan-wook's third movie. But he likes to say it's his first movie because he disowns his first two because it's the first movie he had complete creative control over. It is truly the last shot of the film just cements.
Love a good last shot.
He is a genius. He is truly one of the best working directors. I'd like to see some of his newer films. I've not seen Decision to Leave or The Handmaiden. I've seen all of the Vengeance trilogy. Old Boy is. I know Old Boy kind of gets thrown in this, lumped in this like kind of like Scarface-y, Wolf of Wall Street.
But it's widely regarded as a masterpiece.
A masterpiece.
It is.
It's so good.
That's his direct follow-up to Joint Security Area, right?
No, I don't know.
Is there another?
There's
maybe one more Vengeance movie.
Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance.
That's in between? Okay. So then I think that's how it goes, yeah.
I want to keep it short and sweet. I don't want to spoil anything. A few of these I'm going to keep short and sweet. I noticed these episodes we spent so much time talking about our recent watches. I'm cut back.
I talked a lot about,
but I love that you did because it was.
I really
was meaningful.
Thank you. I really wanted to talk about that movie. It's been kind of eating on my mind.
Yeah, I know you hadn't said anything about it until then. I'm really glad you did. You waited. Perfect. All right, that's all I'll say. Watch Joint Security Area. You will not be disappointed.
And there you have it. So my next film I watched, the last one that I watched alone. The next will be, as I said, I think Nathan has one more, and then we'll talk about the movies we've watched together.
I have two more.
Okay.
Should I just run?
I'll just do mine.
Yeah.
So I watched Clint Eastwood's Best Picture winning Unforgiven. I've never seen it, and it kind of loomed large. I've always wanted to see it. I know. In terms of Clint Eastwood movies,
can I just say, don't spoil anything because I have not seen it. This is a huge blind spot for me.
And it's not a very spoilable movie, like but it was not what I expected. So I know I'm familiar with Eastwood as a director, and I know it's his Best Picture winner. Amongst his movies that he directed, it's easily his most acclaimed.
Yeah.
Amongst movies he's in, maybe the Dollars trilogy would be above it, but it's still very high up there amongst the hundreds and hundreds of movies he's made, and many of them very good. So knowing it won Best Picture, and it won, I believe, Hackman, R.I.P. recently, won Best Supporting Actor for it.
See, this is how blind. I didn't even know he was in it.
I would like to go on a small tangent. Gene Hackman might have the coolest Best Actor wins of any actor, because he won Best Actor for French Connection, which is this gritty, realistic crime drama, like so crazy. He won Best Actor for that. The opening scene of the movie, he's wearing a Santa outfit. like
Right.
chasing a guy on the street, and then he won for this violent, gritty western. Like that's such a cool collection of his awards. Because they don't, I feel like the Oscars don't always give
I know we go
the
off on tangents a
awards.
lot, which people may like that. I like when we
I
do.
like the
I just want to say
tangents.
I saw a quote from Gene Hackman. I'm sure everybody knows it's very well known, where he was like, "I never wanted to be a movie star. I wanted to be an actor."
Right,
And
and
just
he
that
is.
alone, you're like,
He is.
you're the
He
fucking
yeah,
man. Yeah.
he is the greatest example of like a leading character actor, like a leading
Right.
man character actor. Because like you
Agreed.
think about the wide array of heroes or anti-heroes he's played in films where he is the lead, but it's like compare French Connection to The Conversation. Completely different
Very
roles,
different.
completely different performances. But anyway, back to Unforgiven. So knowing it won Best Picture, I've also recently watched, I think we talked about it in the first episode, Dances with Wolves, another very famous, from only 2 years prior to Unforgiven,
Hmm.
Western Best Picture winner. And that is just this sweeping epic. And so that's what I expected from Unforgiven. This kind of sweeping Western epic, long shots, beautiful, that sort of thing. Like if you watch Dances with Wolves, like it's all these giant wide shots of Kevin Costner, holding the American flag. Like it's very beautiful. It is an epic tale spanning, you know, many things. So that is what I thought Unforgiven was going to be, and it's not that at all. It is really a Clint Eastwood Western. It's called an anti-Western a lot, I've seen, and I think that's because a lot of it deals with kind of the fragility of men, the situation that makes the whole plot revolves around whatever you call that, like the what would be the
That
word for
would
that?
I would say that would be anti-Western though. I know you haven't seen Sopranos, but that's like Tony Soprano always talks about. He's like, whatever happened to the strong silent type?
Right. Because in this movie, there are really no heroes. Clint Eastwood, it's mentioned many times throughout the film that he has a horrible and violent history. He's killed many women and children. He has no regard for life, but he's kind of taking on this last bounty mission to provide money for his family and also get revenge for the catalyst I'm talking about that kind of sets the whole film in motion is a man is laughed at by a prostitute for having a small penis. So he ends up
Nice.
slicing her up with a knife, and then they put a bounty on his head. Well, when what happens, I won't give away too much, but he slices a prostitute up with a knife. Gene Hackman is the sheriff, the corrupt sheriff, and doesn't think it's a big deal. While the brothel owners, the women that run the brothel, are like, we want this man hanged. He has just
Right.
mutilated this woman, and Gene Hackman's like, well, he'll just pay in horses. And so it's a lot about like the fragility of men, and I feel like the insecurities of men. And these are not, honestly, I didn't have a great take on it when I watched it. So I will admit I read a lot of reviews to kind of understand more what people really liked about it. Because my first impression of it was that it's just a very solid, very violent and gritty Clint Eastwood Western. It was not the sweeping epic I was expected. It's a very small, contained story, but it does involve men that are not heroes. It involves bad
Right.
men, bad things happening to people, and it is very violent and it is very gritty, very lurid too. It's extremely lurid.
Good adjective.
Yes, thank you. That was kind of the first thing that came to mind because there's so much talk of this woman being mutilated, and the story kind of gets blown up into that she's been had her ears cut off and eyes cut out, which does not happen, but it is very, very lurid. It kind of made me at sometimes be like, Jesus, Clint, like, because some of the stuff he says is so, I don't
Well, I
know.
mean, think about his other. I mean, Gran Torino,
Right,
Million
right.
Dollar
So I
Baby.
suppose he is known for that
Yeah.
sort of gritty, violent. But you get what I'm saying with knowing the
Well.
reputation of Unforgiven
Mhm.
being a Best Picture winner, being his most acclaimed film. I was not expecting it to be this contained, this gritty. I was expecting something that was maybe more of a four quadrant movie, right? Like
Interesting.
something a bit more sweeping, something a bit more approachable to the average person. But it's it's
Mhm.
it's really just a classic, and like I said, anti-western. But in the setup, it's pretty typical. I think why people say it's an anti-western comes from the men portrayed in the movie, in that it's about masculinity,
Yeah, that's. I was gonna say that
fragility.
is the anti-Western.
Everybody's very
Right.
insecure. Everybody's fighting each other,
Yeah,
and
I
nobody's a good guy.
I like some of those. I'll
Yeah,
have to check that one. I mean,
um,
obviously, I would love to check that one out.
it's fantastic. Like I said, Hackman is wonderful in it. Everybody's wonderful in it. Morgan Freeman doesn't get a lot to do in it. I think it's actually interesting period in Morgan Freeman's career because it's before Shawshank Redemption, which I feel like is kind of his really big blow up. I know he'd already been nominated for.
Was this before Glory?
No, this is
So
so
Glory was
he's already been nominated for 2 supporting Oscars at this point
right.
for Street Smart and maybe Glory. No, that's Denzel that gets nominated. Do they both get nominated for Glory? I know Denzel does. Either way.
Well, if Morgan Freeman is not in Glory, we're going to cut this.
Okay, yeah, we'll cut it. And I'm almost positive he is. I know Matthew
I think
Broderick
he is.
is.
I think he's on the cover.
But either way, he's already an Oscar-nominated actor, but he doesn't get a ton to do, which I was kind of surprised by. And then Richard Harris, one of the great drunk British actors of all time, a favorite of mine, is also in it. Doesn't get a ton to do. He pretty much just gets to talk shit to Gene Hackman and then get his ass kicked by Gene Hackman. And he plays a character called English Bob, which I love.
Yeah, I want to watch it.
Yeah, but
both of your films now. 2010, you sold me on. Unforgiven, I've always wanted to watch.
You should watch Unforgiven.
Perfect. All right, well, I'm going to run through these next 2 really quickly. And
sorry for getting into so much detail.
I like it. You're passionate. That's what this is all about.
Yeah,
this
true.
is why we started this. These 2 I'm not passionate about.
Okay.
I watched All the Colors of the Dark. 1972 classic giallo film. Sergio Martino. We've seen a lot of Sergio Martino together. We don't talk much yet about giallo.
I think we need to dedicate a full episode. I think we need to dedicate a full. And I think we're avoiding talking about that in depth because I do really want to dedicate a full episode to maybe not just giallo, and we could include Polizio in that. We're big into the Italian genre cinema of the 70s.
I was going to say we could just do a whole episode on 70s horror.
Yes, 100%. So I think the giallo talk will be saved for a more pointed episode.
One thing I will say really quickly, this is not a spoiler. Well, first, let me say this. All the Colors of the Dark is essentially about a woman who thinks she's losing her mind after there's a car crash and she lost her baby. And she seeks help from anywhere she can find it. And she runs into like a devilish, like a cult, satanic cult. And that's as far as I want to give you.
Okay.
One thing I will say that's very cool about the movie, one of my favorite things, giallo, we talked last episode about title cards.
Yes.
Giallo has a bunch of
amazing
great title cards.
Yes.
This is not like the other ones. The film starts on a beautiful setting of a lake, and you watch as the credits roll of directed by Sergio and starring. It's just quiet. You hear like bugs chirping, birds chirping, crickets, and the sun goes down like slowly, and then it goes dark, and then it's just like immediately like all these crazy images and like,
that's awesome.
like satanic, and then like a car crash. I thought that was the coolest director choice of the film. Yeah. Just that idea of, hence the name, All the Colors of the Dark.
Did Martino do Torso?
Yes, he did.
Okay.
Torso was right after this, which Torso is great.
Yes, Torso is fantastic.
This one was just okay. I wrote down similar to Repulsion, and there's another film I really like called Let's Scare Jessica to Death.
Yes.
Which ends on did you watch Let's Scare Jessica?
No, I have not. I'm very familiar with it, yes.
Similar to how I loved the beginning.
It's kind of like an American
intro.
giallo.
Yes. Yeah. Similar to how I loved the intro of this movie with like the sun going down. The ending shot of Let's Scare Jessica to Death is very similar. I thought it's incredible to end it that way. Another movie that just came to mind that reminds me of both of these is Images.
Oh, hell yeah. I love Images.
There's so many films about the female psyche and like whether or not they're being convinced they're crazy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a great, it
is. And I think all I'll say about giallo too is we have to dedicate more time to talk about it, but it's very hit or miss with all these Italian genre films. Some of them you never know which are gonna connect with you, and you'll think that is so awesome. And then some of the other ones you're just like, okay.
They're bold and brazen.
Yes. And they don't always connect. They don't always connect.
So that's really all I have for Let's Scare. They're All the Colors of the Dark, and I'm just called Let's Scare. Anyways, the next film, popcorn film, relevant today, The Accountant. Watched The Accountant with my wife.
Directed by Ben Affleck?
Maybe. I don't know.
We'll put a pin in that.
She picked it. I have nothing wrong with popcorn films. I'm trying to become more open to popcorn films.
Taking on my taste?
Yes. One thing that shocked me is star-studded. So many stars.
Yeah.
Ben Affleck, John Bernthal, Anna Kendrick, J.K. Simmons, Jeffrey Tambor.
Yeah.
Yeah, wild. We laughed a lot. We had a good laugh at Solomon Grundy, Born on a Monday, because we used to play a video game with Solomon Grundy.
Injustice, yes.
It's just bizarre. It's a
weird.
good popcorn movie. I guess I'm using the term bizarre, but it's a good popcorn film. It's goofy. That's what I should say. Yeah. It's a goofy movie.
I'll say this about I've seen
the action's cool.
The action's great. I've seen The Accountant as well, and I will sum up my entire review in saying I watched it on a plane, and it's a perfect plane movie.
Perfect plane movie.
It's a perfect plane movie.
100%. All right, well, let's get into the ones that we've watched together. So I will say this. So that was one my wife picked, and then I picked this for the other movie we watched together, Sideways. 2004.
Alexander Payne.
Alexander Payne.
2004.
And after I watched it, I just told him to watch it, and you
yes,
did.
I did.
Really
and it's a movie that has loomed large. I would maybe not loomed large, but my mom is a huge fan of Sideways.
It was
so I've always been
early
very,
2000s.
very familiar
Once
of
it
it.
came out,
Yes, it's huge. It's sensation. But I was never allowed to watch it, though we had it on DVD.
Really?
I was told it's a bit too adult.
It is very
It
adult.
is very adult. But I think I can say safely we both loved it.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
It's
just a joy
so
to
funny.
watch. Yeah.
So fun.
Buddy
Performances
All
are
performances are
amazing. And let's shout out our favorite performance in the movie, Thomas Hayden Church.
Thomas Hayden
right?
Church, yes.
Such
a tool.
Yes.
Such a tool.
But so funny.
But so funny. And could not. It's his bachelor party. He could not give a shit about his friend.
No.
He does not.
No. He pointedly does not.
Doesn't even shit about his wife.
No. but then he has the amazing scene after Sandra Oh, in another wonderful scene, clocks him in the face with her motorcycle helmet and beats the shit out of him. He has the scene after that where he breaks down in tears and says his fiance is all he has. Right. And that he's a broken man. He plays up big. He wants to cheat on his fiance, get one last hurrah in, and then when everything is broken down, he breaks down as well in a wonderful scene. But it makes you, man, why is he not in more movies?
Right.
He's so good.
It's funny. We talked about, there's these early 2000s actors with 3 names. So there's him, Thomas Hayden Church, and Sean William Scott.
Sean William Scott.
We watched in Southland Tales, and you watch him in a serious film, and you're like, he should be in more stuff.
Yeah. Oh, she's fantastic in Southland Tales. Right. Yeah. But what more to say about the film? It's so funny. It's Alexander Payne's follow-up to About Schmidt, which I think was a really big hit.
I've not seen it. But yes.
A very popular movie, but then I think Sideways was kind of his critical.
It was huge. I remember. I mean, we were kids when it came out. I remember.
Right. It's huge. I remember the poster being everywhere. It's an iconic poster. The drawings of them and the overturned wine bottle. Very iconic poster. It nominated for Best Picture, won Best Adapted Screenplay. Thomas Hayden Church did get a Best Supporting Actor nom. Should have won. I would say.
I'm curious to know who won that year.
That's $1 Million Baby. So that would be Morgan Freeman.
Oh, wow.
I think, right? Or who won? Was it him or Clint Eastwood won for $1 Million Baby?
Couldn't tell you.
One of those two won Best Supporting Actor that year, I believe.
One thing I want to say is there's a montage where they finally sit down to dinner with Sandra Oh and
Virginia Madsen, who's also wonderful.
Who's fantastic.
She was also nominated for an Oscar.
She's glowing in this film.
Yes.
They sit down to dinner, and there's a great montage of them drinking wine, and you can see he's progressively getting drunker. Great directorial choice or cinematography choice as like the lights get more blurry, and then you kind of like get disillusioned as to what's happening, and then he's calling his ex-wife on the phone.
Yeah, it just cuts to him on the phone, and you know where it's going.
That's probably my favorite part.
Right, and Virginia Madsen, her performance is so good. She's so beautiful. The early scenes of her and Paul Giamatti just make you cringe so hard because Giamatti is just blowing it so badly.
Is just one of the
one of the greatest actors we have. Truly,
we need to watch American Splendor.
Yes, we do.
We're big Lady in the Water fans.
We are. No, I'm unironically a huge Lady
big
in the Water
Fat Liar, fan. Lady in the Water.
I mean, I haven't seen The Holdovers yet.
You haven't?
No.
Oh my gosh!
I just put.
I know,
and I just put 2 and 2 together that I think that is his next film, Alexander Payne and Paul Giamatti's next collaboration after Sideways. So it's them getting back together.
It's fantastic. It's very good.
The Sideways is so funny. Just a perfect comedy.
Payne is really one of the better American directors. I'd like to see Nebraska too. But
good.
Similar to what I'm talking about, that montage.
Election
is
fantastic.
Montage in Sideways that I was just mentioning. There is another montage in The Holdovers that totally subverts your expectation, and it's very masterful.
Mm-hmm. Alexander Payne might be like perhaps our greatest black comedy director. I feel like he fits so well into that genre.
Because you talk about, every movie we've listed except maybe Election.
Election is 100%.
Well, I'm saying they're all about like these characters who are like sort of like the
broken men.
Dingier, seedier side of
the kind of guys that are like culture. Barely hanging on to their lives.
Right. I need to watch Election. I've never seen it.
Election's really good. Reese Witherspoon.
Maybe next time. Maybe from next time, I'll watch Election. You should watch The Holdovers.
Yes, I would also like to watch About Schmidt. I know that's another one that kind of looms large with my parents.
Last thing I want to say that's really funny. So Sideways was based on a novel the author's last name's Pickett. I want to say Jeremy. I forgot. I didn't write his first name down. But he's written multiple sequels because I guess it blew up, and that's probably his cash cow. His sequel's title is Vertical. How ridiculous is that? Pretentious snob. It's like, I'm actually writing a sequel to Sideways. Oh, what's the title? Vertical.
And when he thought of that, he was like,
he's like, I'm a genius.
Genius in the bag.
God, that's ridiculous. And then the third one would be called Sideways 3, Chile.
And let's just say, let's hope they don't make a sequel because it ends on a wonderfully ambiguous note.
Oh yeah, the ending shot is amazing.
Yes, the ending shot is wonderful.
Charming
just a
film.
great movie. Charming
for how greasy a lot of the dialogue is.
It's a dark movie. It is a dark comedy, I would say. It deals with depression and anxiety, those sort of things. Infidelity, obviously.
Big one.
I'll say last thing I want to say. Yes, alcoholism, obviously. Last thing I want to say about Sideways is I loved so much that because Thomas Hayden Church tells Sandra Oh all these things like he loves her before she knows he's getting married.
That's what's so funny about the movie. He's treating her daughter like it's his best friend,
and he tells Giamatti like he wants to end his marriage and come be with Sandra Oh. Mm-hmm. And so you think that's where it's going to go. And then the big climactic scene where she gets off her motorcycle, socks him in the face with her helmet and just beats the crap out of him. You're expecting this reconciliation at the end that never comes. He gets married.
He literally is like, I should sue her.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And I thought that was so funny because I was 100% expecting the movie to flip back around. She forgives him and it doesn't do that. And it's wonderful.
I want to say some of my favorite lines, but is that too much?
No.
Well, they're all like really dirty, but I love when they're playing golf and he says something to Paul Giamatti, sorry if this is too much, but he says the thing, he's like, don't you want to feel that sweet box gripping down your Johnson, man? There's like the dad with the son. He's like, hey. You know what I mean? And then after that all happens, they go out to eat and he finds like the bigger woman and he goes, she's probably two tons of fun.
Yeah.
Like, one of the grateful types. It's like, God, he's such a tool, but it's so funny.
And speaking of that woman, I also thought it was so funny when Paul Giamatti goes back to get his wallet and her husband is there.
Who is her husband? Her husband's like
MC Gainey.
Yeah,
is the actor's name.
Gainey.
Yeah, he's famous. I think he might be a comedian too.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
He has the shot of him fully naked chasing after the car. But I think it's so funny when he goes back to get the wallet and they're having sex and he's like, yeah, you liked bringing that guy home and fucking him, did you? You like whore. Kink or something. Yeah. It's so funny.
Perfect. All right. Well, that sums it up. Watch Sideways.
So
good,
please.
Which I would imagine most people have.
And let's get Thomas Hayden Church in more movies.
Right. Sandman.
Yes, the Sandman himself.
So finally, this is, for once, we're watching a very relevant movie.
We went to the movies together last night.
We went to the movies last night with our friend Hayden. We watched Sinners. Ryan Coogler, 2025.
Ryan Coogler and Michael B. Jordan back together, as they always are.
And I'm going to try and not look at this because I really didn't take any notes on this. We should just shoot from the hip on this. You start us off.
So, I did not think the movie lived up to the hype. I thought the hype was kind of crazy. There's a lot of things I liked about the movie, a lot of things I did not like about the movie. It feels like two separate movies. There's so much buildup. You don't even see vampire. There's the opening scene. It has these flashes of.
Because this is a new movie, refrain from spoilers.
Okay. All right. We should. It's about vampires. We can say that.
Everybody knows that. Yeah.
I mean, I went in completely blind. I didn't really know what it was about. But I did know it was kind of a horror movie. But the build up to the horror is so long. And
at any point during that, did you enjoy it?
I did. I
was going to say about the first 45 minutes, I loved.
I did. Oh, I really liked it. But I don't think it meshed the two movies together well. Mm-hmm. I really liked the horror stuff and I really liked the build up, but it was too much build up, not enough horror maybe. It's like,
no, the movie is not scary.
No, it's not scary at all.
No point are you scared.
But it's like
the jump scares are terrible.
The build up. Okay, I'm glad you also like the build up where it's them going around town setting up the club.
I like the characters.
Yes,
the characters are they're so enjoyable.
It's like
watch. You want to hang out.
Right. It's like that should be its own movie right there.
Right.
The black Prohibition era gangsters come back from Chicago
Michael B. Jordan is twins,
where they've ripped off the mob. That's the movie right there.
Preacher Boy's
wonderful.
So he's gonna have I think he's gonna have a blossoming career.
Yes, I forgot the actor's name. I think Miles something.
Mm-hmm.
But he has a wonderful voice.
I want to say Gainey, but I don't think that's right.
I don't know. I thought it started with a C. But he has a wonderful singing voice and just speaking voice. He really sounds like they did a great job casting this movie where nobody feels modern in it. They really did a great job casting.
Very good.
Shout out also the truly great Delroy Lindo.
Delroy Lindo.
I was so happy. I did not know he was in the movie. When he popped up, I had the biggest smile on my face.
Yeah.
Like, yes, let's go.
He's so funny.
Yes,
too.
he's very funny. He's the comedic relief. But I think we could both agree that like the buildup is good. I might have liked the horror sections a bit more than you, but they should have been separate movies.
Well, let's talk about the opening shot.
I hated the opening shot.
Yeah.
I hated. So maybe not the opening shot. The opening shot is actually of him walking into the church is actually a really great shot.
But then it's cut with
it's cut with the jump scares and
that aren't even jump scares.
It seems like something that should be in the trailer of the film.
Right.
That does not feel like something that should ever be in a finished film. It's how you would convey horror in a trailer.
Yes.
The intercutting of the scary scenes with a more toned down
similar to what you said about being two separate movies. The trailer does not do this film justice.
I did not watch the trailer.
And I haven't watched a full trailer, but my whole understanding was this is going to be like action horror. There's not action or horror until the last 40 minutes of the movie. And the movie is 2 hours and 20 minutes long.
Right.
It's a long, like you said, it really is like two movies.
I feel like I make this complaint every episode.
I really don't want to be too harsh on it because we both enjoyed the film.
We both liked it, but there was, I think.
The problem with movies like this, sorry to interrupt.
No, you're fine.
The problem with movies like this is it comes out, it has a 4.2 on Letterboxd. People act like this is the best movie ever made.
Critically
acclaimed. So then you go in with these really high expectations and you're going to be, I just watched Joint Security Area and Sideways. Like, I'm going to be let down. And
it doesn't warrant the runtime. I mean, I feel like I make this complaint every episode we've had. This is my old man rant. Why the hell are new movies so long? It does not warrant the runtime.
I kind of disagree with you sometimes because there's certain movies I like that are really long that don't feel really long.
I don't think Sinners...
The Holdovers is like 2 hours and 20 minutes. And I'd be curious to see how you feel about that.
Sinners... I don't know if Sinners felt that long.
It didn't.
It felt long. It felt long when no vampires have appeared and we're still in the setup. And I'm like, we're an hour into the movie and nothing horror has happened. We're still... Which
I heard
we liked the setup.
I heard a good take and I kind of believe it. Because, like we said, you fall in love with these characters. You enjoy both. Michael B. Jordan is both.
It's fantastic performance.
They're great.
All the performances are great. Too.
Everybody's fantastic.
It's full of fantastic performances. Certainly.
So the thing I heard,
and it's well directed.
I can't remember who said it, but they were like, it feels like Ryan Coogler loved these characters too much that he didn't know what to do with them.
That's a great take.
I know. It's
a great because it's like you watch the build up, and it's really good, and then it's like that should just be the movie. You know, it doesn't. The idea of vampires in this environment is great. Like I love that as the idea for a horror movie, but make it two separate movies. Mm-hmm. Do the black Mississippi town invaded by the white vampires.
I don't know though. I do think it's such an original idea.
It is
original story. It's good. It is a good movie. We're gonna critique it. But like I already,
we like it.
I'm
we like
myself. It's because it was just so overhyped.
It's very overhyped. And
I think you should see it. I wouldn't say don't see it. I would say you should definitely see it.
I struggle to understand why I'm so caught up on the two halves not really clicking together because I think there's plenty of movies that have a lot of build up and then the payoff warrants it. But I don't know. For some reason, just the two halves of the movie did not click. I like
you might have already said
individually, but they just didn't click together.
You might have already said this, and I've said this about other movies. The things that work really well, and the things that don't work
are. Let's talk about the one scene that does not work.
You see, this is a hot take. I think people online think this really works.
Is the scene where he's playing music and we see other artists.
I've come around to it.
So here's my take on the scene, and this is maybe being very pretentious or way too literal. I like the idea in concept.
It's a necessary idea for the plot.
It's a good idea, but they should have kept the different musicians coming in to the movie takes place in the 1930s. It should have been 1930s and previous. Like I love the African, bongo drum guys, but then when you bring in like the
electric guitar,
like the Jimi Hendrix guy, the women twerking, it's like it takes you out of the movie because when you're sitting there, you're like, this is just my take on the scene. When you're sitting there, you're like, I'm in the 1930s. I'm enjoying this. But then that scene, it's like, how does this fit in? Does that make any sense?
No, it does.
It kind of goes against the I guess they do mention it's like past and future.
Yeah, it's
So
why the vampires want him.
yeah, no, and I get that, but I guess
It's also
I'm
kind of beautiful because, like I said to you after the movie, it shows so like a connection, a tie through like the history of like
it
black
does.
music that I didn't even realize until I was like, oh yeah, there's things today. I said to you, I don't know, you think this is a good take what I said about like
Yes, I do think
the
it's a good take.
blues.
Share
You
it.
know, there's blues, and you know you get the music and you start to hum to kind of get in the zone and get the rhythm. And I was like, even today, I think about like Travis Scott does that with his beats. Like you'll
Hmm.
hear Travis Scott kind of, and I was like, that's so cool. It like
I think I
transcends
think
time.
even ad-libbing in rap songs
Right.
kind of sprouts from
Yeah.
that, of just the idea of like doing something with your voice in between
I'll let you finish
verses.
your talk.
My take was just, and this is, I'm being way too particular. I really like the idea of that scene, but I think they should have kept it to the time period correct and past. Like the stuff with the African tribesmen and the bongo
Yeah, it's
drums and like
awesome.
the
It was
geisha
so cool.
dancer, that
When
stuff
it
is
started
awesome.
coming out, I was
That
that's
stuff
so
should
cool.
stay in there. But then once we get into like Run DMC and the women twerking,
It does. It
that's
feels
what takes
almost,
me out of it.
but that's, and this is, I've seen this online. People really like this movie because it's campy, and that is campy.
It is, yeah. You're right. You're right. It's campy. It's
like
surreal.
John Carpenter. You
It's
love John
surreal.
Carpenter.
Yeah. I don't know. That
I
just
was gonna
caught me
say
up.
I did. Yes, I've come around to that scene, but I remember in the movie theater being like, "What is
Yeah.
happening?" I'll say this.
I
This is
don't know
my
how I feel
opinion.
about that
This
scene.
is my opinion about the movie. Ryan Coogler does certain things that I think he thinks good directors do, and he didn't need to do them. The scene where one of the twins, I can't remember, is in town, and he's like, "I need you to make 100 catfish for tonight," and then she's like, "Go get mom." And there's a tracking scene of this young girl walking
Tracking
across the
shot.
street, tracking shot of this young girl walking across the street, getting her mom, and then her mom walking back. There is no need for it's like,
Right.
oh, I know good directors do tracking shots.
Right.
Usually, a tracking shot, if there's something cool and interesting happen, there's nothing.
It
It's
would be
just her walking across the
a
street.
meaningful, like
Right.
a better example would be like maybe the twins walking up to the club as they're opening it, or something
Right.
that is
Or,
actually
yeah,
like
exactly. Or like in the club, they're like, oh, we're out of Italian wine, go get it. And you walk through and you see all these cool
it's
things,
like
people gambling, people fighting.
you're essentially picturing the Godfather or
Or
the
Goodfellas.
Goodfellas
Yeah,
scene. Yeah, at that
exactly.
point. Yeah. But
It's just like what was the purpose of it?
right. You waste. He like pulled his cards too soon, or however you would say that expression. Like, you know, he could have used that shot in a much more effective
Exactly.
and exciting way. I really liked the vampires. I really liked the Irish vampire.
I
thought
music.
that's such
the
a wonderful.
blues
Yes,
music was
the
incredible.
music's incredible. I just thought the idea of like the Irish vampire, like it's old school, like kind of mythology. Right. He gives them. I really liked the scene. I don't know if you thought about this, but he hands her the coin. He hands her the Haley
coins.
Steinfeld the gold coins, and she's like, "What are these?" He's like, "They're from a different time and a different place."
So they spin
And
just the same.
yeah, they spin just the same.
Right.
I thought that was a really good line.
I love the Delroy Lindo line when he's talking about when they drive past the people on like the jail line. What's that called?
Like a chain gang.
Chain gang.
Yeah.
And he says, because he tells a story about them like the police taking around to play, and he's like, "See, white folks, they like the blues. They just don't like the people who make the blues."
Right,
Like,
which is a great line.
Yeah.
Or another great scene in that same kind of period of the movie is when it's Michael B. Jordan and the younger cousin riding, and he plays the guitar for the first time and sings. That is such a wonderful scene.
He plays, and then the guy, he's
the
like,
awesome scene. The guy's like,
screaming.
"Whoa, holy shit!" And I thought that too when he starts singing. I'm like, "Whoa!" Like
that is the perfect example of like when you fall in love with those characters.
Yeah, right. But it's a movie full of scenes that really work, with a lot of stuff that doesn't really work, and I don't know if the sum is greater than its parts.
I want to say this though: we're being critical. We are so glad it was made.
Yes.
I
100%.
want more original horror
please.
like that made.
Yes.
They need to keep funding, because our friend Hayden was saying they gave him like a huge budget to make this too.
Right.
That's awesome. Go see it in theaters. That's why I think you should go see it in theaters.
I'm so glad we saw it in theaters. Yeah, and I think it is performing well, which makes me
I'm surprised we haven't talked about this yet. So much references to eating coochie.
Very horny movie.
And I say coochie,
very horny movie. I mean, I guess vampires are just inherently horny, right? Like
they're sexual.
Yeah, that's a very sexual monster. Dracula is very
funny,
horny, but yes,
the stuff they say in it.
They talk about eating pussy a lot.
Like a lot. There's like multiple scenes.
And they talk about it as if it's this new kind of newfangled technology. Nobody's doing it
works
yet.
Like, and our friend Hayden, I have to take his take. It works because that's like biting a neck. Like it is like, like tasting somebody. Like, that's literally what they
I think I said that, but
yeah.
No, Hayden had the good take about because I said my favorite part of vampire lore is that they have to be invited into your house.
Mhm.
And he drew the parallels of like when you're singing the blues and whatever, when you're eating pussy, you're inviting the devil into your home. And
Right.
it's kind of parallel, ideas. The
Mhm.
last thing I'll say about the movie, the last thing I'll say that I didn't like is all the blues stuff is just so wonderful.
It's
I
amazing.
love that it's touching on, because at the time they did say like blues is the music of the devil, like it brings the
Right.
devil into your home. So I love that is kind of what it's about. But I was expecting the whole movie for it to kind of go back into like that preacher boy will end up playing good music. Like I kept thinking that he will end up saving the day
then
with his music,
we need to bring
which
up the post-credit
there is
scene.
a post-credit scene we did not see, which I think is kind of that idea.
It is.
But throughout the whole movie, the vampires are chasing him because how gifted he is with his music. He can conjure spirits. So I thought that would be used in for good. But and then essentially the movie kind of ends, and it's like, no, he was just singing devil music.
I kind of like the ending.
I love the ending
the
with
contrast of Michael B. Jordan with his wife and daughter
right.
in heaven, and then I really liked that he's driving away with the head
With
of the
yes,
guitar.
no, I like the ending, and then it's
fretboard.
the guitarist Buddy Guy.
Yes,
If you picked
that's
up on
right.
that, I was reading about him as well, singing at the end. Stop doing that.
I know I keep breaking my pen. I'm sorry.
But yeah, I just, if that makes any sense, like I thought it was going to go in a different direction with its take on music, and then I just felt like it didn't have a take on the music, just that it is like, I don't know.
I don't know.
Does that make any sense?
I think there's takes on the music. I think the music, the whole thing is like music like transcends time and place, and it's
yes,
kind of the great
but
unifier.
then also, so much of the movie is talking about like blues is the work of the devil, and I thought it would counteract that with being like, well, no, music is a great unifier. It really doesn't. Like it does kind of end on the note of like, it ends on the note of minus the post credit scene, which we haven't. We should have watched it before we got on here. We should have just pulled it up on YouTube.
Show up online.
You don't think it'd be on YouTube?
No,
either way, I don't know. I feel like the movie ends, and the whole thing about blues being the devil's music is like, yeah, that's true, and that's not where I was expecting it to go.
I don't know if I agree with you. Yeah, I think that's a fine take. I don't know if I agree with it. I do think
what would be your counter to that?
Because like I said, I think it's just a movie about like the messaging you can make with music. Because even the Irish vampires, Irish folk music is like incredibly sad.
Yes,
like it's like its own form.
I agree, it's about that, but it never shows the music spreading a positive message, which is the other half of the coin.
I think the post credit scene does,
but that's a post credit scene. Like that should have been in the actual movie. If that is the take on it, that should not be.
Well,
saved.
And I also think.
Does that make any sense?
Nobody, and this is one thing I loved about the movie, and this is a good credit. Sometimes you watch these popcorn movies. Unforgiven is a good example of like what this does too, where no character in this movie is perfect.
No.
They have vices,
right?
And that's
kind of what the movie's about.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of what the movie's
Sinners.
about.
I mean, it's literally called Sinners.
Yes, it is.
So that's why I think it's fine that he continues to play music. I don't think it means like all music is evil. I think it just says like human beings, we tread a line between.
I don't think that either. I was not expecting that. I was expecting there to be some other side of the coin at least addressed. I don't know, but maybe I'll forget about that.
No, that's
argument.
fine.
I don't know if I'm right on that. I don't know if that's a good take. That's
I hope
kind of
if this gets any views, people
please,
will comment.
Tell us
Sinners.
that we're wrong.
I'm sure there's a lot of takes.
We both have to acknowledge
it's good. It's good, not the best movie ever made. Like people are acting right.
We're
now.
only being so critical on it because of how critically acclaimed it is. If this movie had average ratings and we went in and saw it, I think we'd both be, that was fucking awesome. But being hyped up is like the best movie of the year so far.
We'll see though. I mean,
we'll see.
There's no other movie I can think of right now that I think is going to be better. Phoenician Scheme.
We'll have to address too. We both loved the final scene with Michael B. Jordan where he shoots up all the Klansmen.
Yeah,
that's like that. Also felt like
you're giving spoilers, but yes.
Oh, sorry.
Yes, but it's awesome.
But it's a scene where you see it at the end. You're like, this is what the movie should have been.
It should have been all
like this is so great. Like this is what the movie should have been.
I totally agree. It's just too long.
Yeah, too long.
If I was going to sum it up in like a very boring way, I would say it's just a little too long.
It's my summary of it would be it's a lot of wonderful parts that maybe don't mesh together as well as you would like them to. It's
Delroy Lindo, GOAT though.
Yes, so amazing. Good. Many wonderful scenes, but I don't think this what's the term? Like, I don't think the sum is greater than its parts, right?
Yeah,
Like,
agreed.
yeah.
All right, well, we've
Yeah,
been spending
we'll
so
get
much time
going.
on these. All
All
right.
right, so topic. Let's jump into it. So we're talking 90s films. We're going to be talking our favorite movies of the 90s and also discussing most important movies. As Nathan mentioned earlier, we've split this into 3 categories. So the first one is just our favorite movies, the ones we think are the best of the best, the top of the bunch, many to talk about. And then we have another category, which is going to be underrated. So these are going to be some underseen movies. Probably haven't heard of most of these, but just some hidden gems of the 90s.
I would even say you might have heard of some of these, but we're just saying
But you
they're
may,
not as
right.
acclaimed.
You may
as,
not think they're
right.
good. You may not think they're worth watching. And then our third category, as Nathan mentioned, is curios.
Which
and
is, it doesn't even mean they're really that good. It's just like wild, like
odd,
how did this
just
get made?
odd objects. Yes. How did this
Exactly.
get made? And I think once we get into some of those curio movies, you'll understand better what that
Honestly, though,
means.
everyone I have on my list, I think, is a good movie.
Oh, I agree. I agree. I'm not really discussing any films I don't like.
Right. Yeah.
And then the last thing I'll say before we get into the meat and potatoes, Nathan mentioned we've put together a list of our top 10 movies of the 90s. So those movies on the top 10 list, we're going to try not to discuss until the end.
Well, there's a caveat to that. I'm going to mention movies that
might
be on
my
his
list
top 10
and vice versa. Yes.
So that'll be interesting. We'll just have to be like, oh, yeah.
All right. You ready to get into it?
Perfect. So, yes, you start us off. Should we just read one of the lit?
I'll just start off with the top movies. So, I mean, the 90s is just an embarrassment of riches with films. I would say it's second in decades only to the 70s. 70s is the greatest decade of movies, but 90s has some amazing films. So I'm just going to, like I said, we'll get into our top 10 list and probably get into some of these movies a little bit more depth there. But some of the ones I have highlighted, I'm just going through my list.
Yeah, just read them.
Trainspotting, amazing film. Rewatched it recently. So good, so funny, so dark. A wonderful encapsulation of the 90s, of that culture. You know, it's very grungy. It has this wonderful soundtrack. Danny Boyle, a wonderful director. New movie we'll have to go see coming out soon, 28 years later. That's a big one for me. I love that film. Next one, Being John Malkovich. This one could go.
So both of these, you've put. I had Trainspotting and underrated, and I had Being John Malkovich.
Right.
Curious.
Trainspotting underrated. Trainspotting is like a huge movie. I would disagree with that. Sorry.
No, that's fine.
Being John Malkovich could also go into the curios section, certainly.
That's what
that is a very strange movie,
but it's fantastic.
Very funny, fantastic. Perfect Blue, Satoshi Kon. One of there's a lot of good anime movies, I would say, in the 90s too, and I think you'll talk about some as well. But Perfect Blue, probably my favorite Satoshi Kon film. One of the great, a lot of good animated movies in the 90s too. And something, I'm going to go on a little side tangent here, but looking at trends, when we're looking at these lists of movies in the 90s, I noticed a distinct lack of horror. Because, you know, the 80s was so big for American horror, and you look at the 90s, and there's not a lot of big American horror movies. And so it's interesting kind of the transition. I think
would say American horror.
Well, because you'll get into it. Nathan has quite a lot of J horror, which was big in the 90s.
Not quite a lot, but I have a few.
There's a few big ones. But like, what is the biggest? I'd say the biggest American horror movie of the 90s is probably Scream, right? Silence of the Lambs.
Sounds like a
7, but still, like,
7's more of like a thriller.
You look at the 80s.
I mean, Silence of the Lambs could be like a drama.
Right. But like, you know what I'm saying? You look at the 80s and you have like Friday the 13th, the Halloween movies, just Nightmare on Elm Street movies. Yes. Sorry.
Run through them.
The 90s, I think, is more action oriented. So another one, a German film, Run Lola Run, a wonderful.
You put that on your favorites?
Yes.
That's you're listing curios, man.
You think that's a curio?
It's such an interesting.
It is such an interesting movie. Yeah. Such an interesting concept. 3 stories played out.
It repeats time.
Yeah. All right, so then I'm just going to go through some of the other ones I have in my favorites. Thin Red Line, Malik. We love Malik. Toy Story 2, my favorite Toy Story, one of the greatest animated movies ever. T2, Terminator 2.
Wow, I can't believe I forgot about that.
Don't think anything needs to be said about that one. Yeah. I would probably put this in the curios, but I do love this movie, and that is David Cronenberg's Crash, a wonderfully lurid sexual film. That could go in any of them, yes. Though I feel like it is maybe coming out of its underrated status. I feel like it kind of gains.
That's what I'm saying.
Gains a little bit more traction each year. Blade, Blade is
Blade's
amazing.
incredible.
You've Got Mail.
Great.
90s is
Yeah,
good for
fantastic.
rom-coms. I would put You've Got Mail as my favorite. Not as big on Sleepless in Seattle.
No, me too. You've Got Mail is
Yeah,
nice.
You've Got Mail is my favorite. Die Hard with a Vengeance. 90s is so good for action. Die Hard with a Vengeance is such a good movie. Samuel L. Jackson following up Pulp Fiction, paired with Bruce Willis driving around New York City in a taxi cab. Just so much fun. And then you've got so many directors emerging in the 90s too, like Soderbergh, Out of Sight. We both like Out of Sight with Clooney,
absolutely.
Jennifer Lopez.
Great soundtrack,
yep.
Great score.
And then a lot of great comedy. And this will be the last thing I talk about on my top. I'll let you do yours. So much good comedy in the 90s as well. Some of the highlights, I would say, Something About Mary, wonderful. Dumb and Dumber, so funny. And then you even got some more darker comedies like Cabin Boy. That could be a curio. That's a very weird one.
I've never even heard of that movie.
It's the Chris Elliott movie.
So that's that's a curio.
Yeah, that is a curio. Well, actually, I'm going to save this other movie for the curio.
I'm a fan
section.
of Chris Elliott. I'm not, just no.
But no, it is a.
Not, in no way is he like an A-list celebrity.
No, he is not. And it's a strange film. But now I'll let Nathan talk about his top.
Sure, I'm just going to run them down quick.
Yeah.
Let's start with Austin Powers. Easy favorite. I talked about it on my comfort film.
Talk about riches of comedy. Amazing.
Incredible movie. Mm-hmm. Next, I have, this could be any of them too, Jim Jarmusch's Night on Earth.
Yeah.
Very interesting film. I really like Mystery Train too, but I don't know if that's 90s.
It is.
It is?
It is. So is Dead Man too.
Yeah. Well, Dead Man.
Dead Man is not.
Yeah, you're right. That's 90.
It's 95.
The Birdcage. I'm surprised you talk about that comedy.
Yeah.
That's like
another great comedy.
Lane,
yep.
Robin Williams.
Nathan Lane's so good.
Gene Hackman.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. Gene Hackman, yeah.
Yeah, so good.
Yep.
If you haven't seen that movie, it's
a great
joy.
one. Yes.
It's
Hank Azaria.
Hank
Azaria is wonderful in it.
12 Monkeys. 12 Monkeys. Yep. Fantastic. Terry Gilliam really had a run there. He had Brazil, that's not 90s, but
it's 85.
Brazil, Fisher King.
Fisher King is 90s. I actually should have mentioned that. Fisher King is a movie I love.
He's the GOAT. We've talked about this movie time and time again. That's why I didn't put it in the top. Lost Highway. Being John Malkovich, I have listed here. Seven. Fargo. Fantastic. Fargo is such a good movie.
Coen Brothers. This is when they're really starting to heat up in the 90s.
Really starting to light a fire. Bottle Rocket, which is the first one.
Another. That's what I'm saying.
I think I talked about that maybe in the first episode as well.
So many of the most important directors today really are getting their footing or just starting in the 90s. We should also mention Tarantino. Reservoir Dogs.
I have Pulp Fiction on here. Pulp Fiction.
Reservoir Dogs 92.
Heavyweights.
Okay. Great. Another great director.
Matilda is a great. So you mentioned Toy Story 2, and I was like, that's a great kids movie. That's why I put these two. These are some great kids movies. Heat is,
great kids movie.
Yeah, great kids movie. This is an interesting one. Sonatine, directed by Takeshi Kitano. He's kind of an unknown director, I would say. Wouldn't you? I mean, he's
for international audience. I think if you're a film buff, you're aware of his work.
He's incredible. I wish you cannot find good releases, like good Blu-ray releases of his films in America. He's huge in Britain. Like all the Blu-rays I have are from BFI.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Such a cool director, man.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Very cool. Three Colors trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
Particularly blue and red. White's good, but it's not as good as blue and red.
And that's
Kieslowski.
Yeah, and so I mean, he's kind of getting going.
I think this isn't even a hot take. I think people who are pretentious film snobs like myself would agree. I truly think Kieslowski is in the running for maybe the greatest director of all time.
I need to watch more of his work.
It's just so good. It's all of the metaphysical of someone like Tarkovsky, or even like Stanley Kubrick, but more heart to it.
Another great director who made me think of is starting out in the 90s, Haneke.
Yeah, Funny Games. Yeah. He had several films before that. That's his.
But this is some. I mean, Coen Brothers had movies before the 90s.
I've seen Funny Games. I have Funny Games. I appreciate Funny Games. Funny Games is not on my.
But you get what I'm saying is like these directors may have had movies previously, but they're getting their footing in the 90s. This is where they're coming out with their first breakout films and really cementing themselves into what they will become later on.
Absolutely. So next, we want to do underrated.
Yeah, I'll start. Movie I really love, always loved, Miami Blues with Alec Baldwin, Jennifer Jason Leigh. Just a wonderfully funny, dark crime thriller. Alec Baldwin's fantastic in it. He does a Scarface impression in the movie that's very funny.
Yeah, we don't care what he did.
Right.
We're big Baldwin heads.
Yeah, we love the show The Baldwins too. We're big on
Yeah,
Hilaria or whatever his crazy wife's name is.
yeah.
I have two Steve Martin movies in my underrated. Big fan of Steve Martin, and that is L.A. Story and Bowfinger. If you've ever seen
Wow.
either of those.
Nope.
Bowfinger is with Eddie Murphy, where Eddie Murphy plays two roles. Very funny.
I'm familiar with it. I'm not big on Steve Martin like you are.
I am big on Steve Martin. Speaking of Clint Eastwood, I would say one of his most underrated directorial films, White Hunter, Black Heart. That's a very underseen Clint Eastwood movie where he is kind of essentially playing John Huston filming The African Queen.
That's awesome.
Yes,
That's
and he's just like a tyrannical director filming in Africa and just kind of like terrorizing. And
I gotta watch that.
He's obsessed with poaching an elephant is the thing, and so that's kind of what it's about.
Sort of a Moby Dick, if you will.
Yes. Another one, I think this is in your underrated too, Big Night, with Tucci, Tony Shalhoub, wonderful film. I think
Big Night would be a good pairing, if you will, with
Sideways. Yes, it would. 100%.
And another one that you haven't seen. I'll wait. Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
Continue.
Sorry, I just have a few more.
Yeah,
Paul Schrader's Light Sleeper, wonderful little movie. Strange Days, Catherine Bigelow with Ray Fiennes.
I need to see that.
Yes, wonderful little sci-fi movie. Long Kiss Goodnight, Samuel L. Jackson and Gina Davis. Just a fun action movie. You know, like I said, 90s is just so many action movies. I love these type of movies. That's just the perfect movie. Just put on, have a good time for an hour and a half, and you're in and out. Things to Do in Denver When You're Dead, and that could be a curio. This is a weird one and a very controversial one. I think a lot of people don't like that, but I'm also very kind of maybe not into, but I'm very interested in the wave of Tarantino knockoffs that come after Pulp Fiction.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
To me, Things to Do in Denver When You're Dead is one of the biggest ones that comes in that wave. And you also have things like Get Shorty. I think you could put in that category. You know, things like that.
I mean, even the Soderbergh to some extent.
Right. And then the last one I had, and I cannot believe I'm blanking. I'm having a brain fart on this director's name. Evil Dead. Sam Raimi. Sam Raimi's The Quick and the Dead, another Western starring Gene Hackman and Sharon Stone, and a wonderful, fun little movie.
You brought a few movies up that I've,
totally young Leonardo DiCaprio in that movie as well.
So, like I said, you said, maybe you'll hear some titles and check them out.
Yeah,
you're giving me them right now. Okay, I'll run through my underrated. Number one, The Phantom Menace. Just Jar Jar Binks, man.
If we had a fourth category that was straight to the trash, that would be where I would put Phantom Menace.
Nah, Phantom Menace rules. Phantom Menace is awesome.
I love that you love Phantom Menace. I'll say that.
I do. It's just got a special place in my heart. I think it's badass. Obviously I wanted to be a pod racer when I was a kid. Next up, Bram Stoker's. Ayo. Raunchy. Like we said, the vampires
are horny.
Sexual. Bram Stoker's Dracula.
I'm dying to see that. I've not seen it.
That's a raunchy movie. Yeah. Francis Ford Coppola doing what he does. Here's one that I don't know if you've seen it. Maybe you have. Three Kings.
Yes.
Three Kings. That's very good.
That's Soderbergh also, right? Soderbergh?
I don't know. It's somebody famous.
It is.
Spike Jonze is in it. George Clooney.
No, that's not Soderbergh.
It's not. It's somebody famous,
I don't think so. Maybe James Gray.
Next up, here's a good comedy that I put it in underrated. It's very popular. It was when we were kids. But when people think of Bill Murray, they don't think of this movie. But what about Bob?
Mm-hmm.
What about Bob's fantastic?
I think that probably gets overshadowed because Groundhog Day comes out about 2 years later, which is kind of his.
Great movie, too. That could be, you could put that as the best rom-com. But I still agree with you. I think I would say You've Got Mail.
That's my favorite.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I think a lot of people put Sleepless in Seattle as the best one. But that one just didn't do it for me.
I agree. Shortcuts. Robert Altman, we've talked about that one before.
Altman's comeback movie too.
Yeah.
You've got old directors coming back too.
You could lump this one into Curios, but Safe. You could also lump it into favorites.
Yes.
Safe is just incredible.
Is that Todd Haynes?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Todd Haynes.
Which I would like to see more of.
Once again, another very interesting director that's still making very interesting movies, getting his start in the 90s.
Exactly.
And then Happiness. Were you going to mention that?
I have that in Curios.
Sorry
that's
to
also
jump ahead.
No, that's fine. So then I have underneath it Big Night, which we talked about, and I said that would be a great pairing with Sideways. Another great pairing of those two would be Day Trippers, which I might have
Greg Mottola, another
Mottola.
director getting his starts in the 90s.
For sure, fantastic. This one you could also put in all three, and for pretentious film snobs, they'll be like, "Why would this be underrated?" Because it's huge. They even made a series of it recently. Irma Vep. Irma
Mm.
Vep is
One thing, Oliver
fantastic.
Assayas, or however you
Yes,
say his
yes,
name,
Oliver
getting
says.
coming up in the
So good.
90s.
So interesting. The ending of
Yes,
that film. You've got to watch that.
I
Maybe
know,
I'll
I
put
know.
that as one of the three you should watch.
Should.
This is one that's also should not be underrated, but I put it as underrated, and that is When We Were Kings. It's a documentary about Rumble in the Jungle, Muhammad Ali versus George Foreman.
Very
R.I.P.
cool. Yeah.
Died recently. George
Hmm.
Foreman did. Fantastic. One of the best documentaries I've ever seen. It should be in the running as like one of the best documentaries. Safe. I've got that. Yep. Train Spotting. You mentioned that one, and then King of New York. Abel Ferreira,
Yep, I didn't mention that.
Christopher Walken.
Abel Ferreira actually has. I should have put more Abel Ferreira, but New Rose Hotel is
I've
fantastic
not
as
seen
well.
it.
The Addiction. Um, Bad Lieutenant is 92.
Mm-hmm.
So if you like Abel Ferreira, I don't know if there's a ton of people. I'm a big Abel Ferreira fan, but he has some great stuff in the 90s. I think the
Brazen. He's
Blackout is 97 as
yeah.
well.
He's like a trashy director,
A
but like a
grimy.
yeah. He's like a
Uh,
fun like he's like
he's fun trash.
he would be
Yes.
like if a homeless guy flashed you and be like, yeah, that's right, I'm flashing you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
he's
And you'd be like, that was kind of awesome.
yeah. Yeah, he's flashy, but he's got a huge
Right.
hog. So
Right.
you're
You're like,
into
okay, that's cool.
it. Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
good way to
No.
put it.
Um,
Cool. That's what I have for underrated.
So I'll get into curios, but one thing I had a huge omission. Probably one of my favorite actors of the '90s. You'll see him come up when I do my top 10 list a few times. Big omission I missed on my favorites, and that is Point Break. Keanu Reeves and Patrick Swayze. You'll I'll get into some more Keanu movies in a minute, but I love Point Break, another Catherine Bigelow movie. Um, yeah, just a wonderfully homoerotic film,
Yeah,
but a
for
wonderful
sure.
action movie at the same time.
I don't love it as
Um,
much as you do, but that's fine.
no, and then I don't even think we mentioned Leon. I'll
Whoa.
mention Leon. I love Leon. And then one more, Naked with
Naked,
David Thewlis
Mike
as
Lee.
Mike Lee.
Naked is a tough movie to watch.
That could be under curios maybe.
No, I mean it's big, but it's a
Yeah.
tough movie to watch.
Okay. Well, either way, I'll get into my curios now.
Start us off.
So I have Hudson Hawk, a very
Yep.
notorious
We
1991.
watched that one together.
Yes, we did watch that together. Bruce Willis's Passion Project, and what a weird movie to
I
be
liked
his
it.
passion. I liked it too. I like it a lot. Danny Aiello.
Him singing
They just sing a bunch.
Sinatra,
Yeah, they sing and rob a museum.
Swing on a Star.
Very weird movie, but very fun. Escape from LA, sequel to one of my favorite films of all time, and it is batshit insane. I don't know what Carpenter was on. I don't know what Kurt Russell was on, but it's a very fun movie, a very strange movie. Does not live up to the original, of course, but it is very fun. Clifford with Martin Short, Charles Grodin.
That's on my watch list.
Wonderful, wonderful movie. So funny.
Martin Short's great.
So bizarre. Martin Short is a 40-year-old man playing a 10-year-old child in that film, and it is not addressed in the movie at all.
It's kind of a great idea.
It is taken at face value, and it's very funny. And then Waterworld, of course, should be mentioned. One of the '90s most notorious bombs. One of the most notorious bombs of all time. Waterworld is a deeply strange curio of a movie. The movie literally starts with Kevin Costner drinking his own piss in the first scene of the movie.
That rules.
Yes. And then Raising Cain, a very interesting De Palma film.
I don't think a lot of people would agree. I would think that's straight to the trash.
I would kind of agree. But the thing is, if you love De Palma like I do, there's stuff in it. Like it's got the great De Palma scenes in it.
But all of the great De Palma is 80s, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And John Lithgow is love Lithgow, but I don't know if he works in the movie. It's a very strange performance.
Oh yeah, I didn't mention earlier when I said Star-studded. Lithgow's in The Accountant too.
Oh well, he's in 2010. He's coming up all over the place.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the other curio, I already mentioned Cabin Boy. Virtuosity. If anybody is familiar with that, that's the Denzel Washington action film, kind of Russell Crowe's big breakthrough, where he plays an android. Just a very bizarre, like, I don't know, kind of like neo cyberpunk, just really weird, bizarre little curio.
Good way to put it.
Yeah.
All right, I'll run through mine real quick. Small Soldiers, first one.
That's a
Great
good curio.
movie,
Joe Dante.
But it is a curio.
Yep.
Tales from the Crypt, Demon Knight. Very good.
Interesting. Is that the one with Dennis Miller?
I want to say Thomas Hayden Church is in that.
Maybe Thomas Hayden Church, because he is,
and he's kind of a weirdo in that one
because he was around in the '90s on Wings, the show he was on.
Very good. I enjoyed Demon Knight quite a bit. If you like campy horror, you'll like it. Following. The
Yep.
first Christopher
First
Nolan
Christopher Nolan
film.
movie. That's a good one.
Underrated, very good. People should watch that. Mouse Hunt. Another
Son.
fun
Speaking of
child's
Nathan
movie.
Lane, yep,
Yes.
very fun
Fantastic.
movie.
And the other guy is the guy who's in
Lee
Something
Evans.
About Mary.
Yes, Lee Evans.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's really funny in Something About Mary
famous
too.
British comedian.
Then I have Happiness, which you mentioned, Todd Solondz. Not for everybody, but it's a
Todd
strange.
Solondz.
Yeah, Todd Solondz.
And then Todd Haynes did Safe,
Did
right?
Safe,
Okay, so
correct.
disregard what I said earlier, connecting those two.
Ghost in the Shell. I put this as a curio. I really shouldn't have. It's probably the most famous anime film besides like Akira,
Yeah,
right? And
yeah.
then like the Studio Ghibli,
But
if you call that anime.
I feel like with Ghost in the Shell, like the manga is kind of more famous than the movie.
But the Ghost in the Shell, the movie is
fantastic,
incredible.
yes.
It's so good. Run Lola Run, which you mentioned.
Yep.
Lars von Trier's Europa. I got to bring up Lars von Trier, of course. Europa is such a. I say it's a curio because of the choices he makes in the film. Max von Sydow is the narrator.
Mm-hmm.
Shots that are in black and white, and then there'll be a projected screen of color behind them, things like that.
Yeah.
I'm just a fanboy. I think it's awesome. Double Life of Veronique, very good. Another Kieslowski. Goes hand in hand with being John Malkovich. I wouldn't be surprised if Spike Jonze had seen, because there's a lot of marionette use.
That's very cool.
Then right underneath it, I wrote being John Malkovich, and then Perfect Blue.
Okay. See, I had that. I suppose you could call that a curio, but
yeah,
it is kind of a masterpiece, I would say. I think it maybe be a little elevated above.
So now we're gonna run through the top 10.
Yep.
Do we want to just say them all, or are you gonna say a little thing about each of them?
I mean, I'll touch on them a bit.
Okay.
If we think that's all right. So
sure.
These are, let's just clarify. So these are our personal top 10 favorites, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But there's not going to be any movies in here that I don't think are absolute masterpieces.
Mm-hmm.
Like these are also, I would say, maybe 10 of the greatest movies.
I'd be interested to see how much crossover we have,
Yes.
because there's a lot of movies that you didn't mention. So I was like, oh, you must have one in your top 10 too.
So just to say that, this is our opinion of the top 10 movies, but also if you told me to write down the top 10 best movies of the 90s,
it would be
different. The lists would be very similar.
Oh, you think so?
I think somewhat.
Mine would be a little different. There's definitely some, but
all
right, go ahead.
My number one would stay the same for both best movies of the 90s and my favorite movies of the 90s. I think this is the best movie of the 90s, and that is The Matrix. Just a monumental film. So important, so good. What more can you want from a film? Just amazing.
I'm actually
sci-fi.
kind of embarrassed I don't have this anywhere on mine.
Well, that's okay. I put it on mine. I'm just an enormous fan of The Matrix. I told you Keanu's going to come up. Then number 2, I have Eyes Wide Shut. Stanley Kubrick, masterpiece. Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise is around in the 90s a lot too. You got Jerry Maguire. We didn't even mention, a very big comedy, kind of rom-com a bit. Yep, Show Me the Money.
Jonathan Lipnicki.
Yes. Yep, Jonathan Lipnicki. He's around in the 90s too. Then number 3, a film Nathan already mentioned, and that is Michael Mann's Heat.
Yeah,
his magnum opus.
I knew that was going to be on yours.
And so, I would say those first, and here, I'll say number 4 too. Number 4 is La Haine, the French film.
Incredible.
Yes, an incredible movie.
5 stars.
So those top 4 right there, I would also consider those 4 the greatest movies of the 90s. I think, inarguably.
Yeah.
And now we'll kind of get into some maybe more opinionated stuff. So my number 5 is John Woo's 1992 masterpiece, Bullet Opera, or what do they call it? Bullet Ballet, or...
No, I think it's Bullet Opera.
Bullet Opera, and that is Hard Boiled, starring the wonderful, wonderful Chow Yun-Fat. Maybe in my favorite action star performance of all time.
And you just want to cut in.
Yeah.
Today, as of today, you sent in that they're restoring the film.
Finally. This has been a hard film. If
anybody's
to get
watching
your hands
this
on,
and they're like, "Yeah, how do I watch it?" Well, just wait.
It'll be coming soon. Yes, it'll be in theaters. They're restoring it in 4K. Finally.
Yeah.
I like
The Killer more.
Is that no? That's 89. So,
okay.
Which is a take. People like The Killer a lot,
The
but
Killer's awesome.
Without Hard Boiled or The Killer, we would not have John Wick or The Matrix.
We wouldn't have a ton of action.
Or The Matrix, really. I mean, The Matrix takes a lot.
In the same way that Giallo films were seminal for the slasher films of the 80s and 90s.
The John Woo Bullet Opera is the gun fu. Yes. Yes.
We saw in 2000.
So that's number 5. And number 6, I have a film I've talked about a lot already on our podcast, and that is David Lynch's Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me.
And that's definitely opinionated. Yes. A lot of people would not say
No, a lot of people don't like it.
Right.
It's a challenging film. Number 7, I have a little lighter pick. Well, maybe not actually that light, and it is Iron Giant. kind of a darker
It's beautiful,
children's
man. I
movie.
got to rewatch that.
Just there's one of my favorite movies as a kid.
Yeah,
Still
it's
holds
great.
up.
People
It's
love it.
still just
It's a
universally.
shame it was such a bust at the
It was a
box
bomb. It
office.
was a huge
Yeah.
bomb at the time, and it's just been critically reacclaimed, rightfully so. It's just a wonderful movie. It's sad. It is sad. It's dark. Wonderful animation. Just a great movie. Number 8, I have Fargo, my favorite of the Coen Brothers movies. That could kind of slot in anywhere on this list. Fargo is an all-time favorite of mine.
Right. I mentioned that one earlier.
Number
yeah.
9 is another all-time favorite of mine. I felt I had to put this one a little bit lower because it's not quite as good as the films I have above it, but my love for it is just as big, and that is Speed. Speaking of Keanu again.
Yeah, you mentioned that one.
I love Speed. And then number 10, had to throw in a comedy. We talked a lot. It's a great decade for comedy, so I had to put in my favorite, and that is Office Space.
Fantastic.
So
there's a few of those movies you listed: Iron Giant, Office Space, one other one I can't remember right now that I'm shocked I didn't have.
I'm gonna run through my top 10 real quick again, just without saying anything. Number 1, Matrix. Number 2, Eyes Wide Shut. Number 3, Heat. Number 4, La Haine. Number 5, Hard Boiled. Number 6, Fire Walk with Me. Number 7, Iron Giant. Number 8, Fargo. Number 9, Speed. Number 10, Office Space.
Awesome. My top 10, and this is a good. So you started with The Matrix, and I was like, oh, I didn't put this anywhere. I'm starting with one that you didn't put anywhere. That's shocking. Number 1, Silence of the Lambs.
I mean,
Silence of the Lambs. What is there to say?
What? Yeah,
incredible
film.
When I first heard about it, everybody's like, "Oh, it's about a cannibal. All this gross stuff in it." But then you watch it's like Old Boy, where it's like, oh, you go in for the shock
it's
value.
It's a thriller,
and then you watch it, and it's fantastic. It's just such a well written.
It's just, I mean, what a masterpiece.
What a masterpiece.
It's so cool too that, and very rightfully so, that it won Best Picture.
See, that's
it's like
this
that
is a
movie.
good, because I would, how you said you'd put that as your favorite and the best. I would put this as number 1 of my favorite and my.
I agree, and I have no.
Well, you said The Matrix. You said. So
I know, but Silence of the Lambs is an absolute masterpiece.
Yeah, I would say
I cannot argue.
In my opinion, the best movie in the 90s. Number 2, this is a cult movie, Big Lebowski. You said Fargo.
Come on,
Big Lebowski, fantastic. Speaking of cult movies, and mine is different in the sense of these movies would not be as the best. Number 3, Starship Troopers. Paul Verhoeven.
That could be one of the best, though, too. It's so really good. It's such a good film.
It holds up so well.
It does.
It's very funny, too.
Holds up well. It has aged wonderfully.
Yeah.
like continually, yes.
Number 4, I had mentioned on my favorites Pulp Fiction. This one's just more personal to me. Jackie Brown. Love Jackie Brown. Love the soundtrack. Love the actors. Love the style.
Yeah.
Samuel Jackson.
Wonderful.
I mean, everybody.
Yeah, everybody.
I could
so
talk
good.
for it. We could do
Robert
a whole
Forster.
episode. We could do a whole episode on Jackie Brown.
Oh, yeah.
It's so
sure.
good.
Pam Grier.
Obviously.
Obviously.
Number 5, you mentioned J-horror earlier that I was going to bring it up. This is, I don't believe, no, Kiyoshi Kurosawa, yes, Japanese. Cure.
Cure is 100% J-horror. Yeah.
Watch Cure. I think it came out recently. This was like one of Martin Scorsese's favorite movies.
Mm-hmm.
It should be required for film school.
Speaking of 7, that'd be a good
one and the same.
A good pair. Yeah.
Agreed. Or we said Zodiac last time.
Yeah.
And on that last episode, I had said Prisoners. If the watch this would be Prisoners and I Saw the Devil.
Yes. Yeah, that'd be good.
Anyways, number 6, Boogie Nights. Surprised you didn't have that anywhere. Paul Thomas Anderson.
Yeah. See,
you didn't put Paul Thomas Anderson anywhere.
No,
90s was his whole come.
It's his startup. Hard 8, and then Boogie Nights, and then Magnolia is 99.
It is?
Yes.
I haven't seen Magnolia.
And then Punch Drunk Love is 02.
Love to see it. Number 7, back to the J-horror, as you called it, Audition, Takashi Miike. Another one of the best horror movies ever made. Truly, I believe one of the best. Cure is better. Audition, I don't even know. Actually, that's just an opinion. Audition might be better. Who knows? Number 8, La Haine. La Haine is amazing. You mentioned this earlier why we didn't list it, and I didn't want to say anything. Number 9 for me is Leon the Professional.
Yes.
Leon the Professional is so good.
Masterpiece.
Stands up to the task so well. I haven't seen it in a really long time. Bit weird. A love story between a man and a child.
It is, and some things have maybe come out about that director
of course,
that are not great. But it's such a wonderful film, and it's just so good. Gary Oldman just absolute chews scenery in it.
And then number 10, I would say this is a good pairing with Being John Malkovich. I'm surprised you didn't have this anywhere. The Truman Show.
Well, Truman Show is one of my favorite movies of all time, but we were discussing this, and so you had it on your list. I didn't.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's
but Truman Show is very.
So then I'll do what you did really quickly. I'll just run through them really quick again. 1, Silence of the Lambs. 2, Big Lebowski. 3, Starship Troopers. 4, Jackie Brown. 5, Cure. 6, Boogie Nights. 7, Audition. 8, Lahane. 9, Leon the Professional. 10, The Truman Show.
And I could take all those movies. I haven't seen Audition actually, but I could
You
take
haven't
all
seen
those movies.
Audition?
No,
Oh
I
my
know.
God, you would love
I
Audition.
know. I'm sure I would. Big
Dude.
blind spot.
So I want to go ahead and say this. We have to do the episode where I give you 3 films and you
Right.
give me 3 films.
Yeah.
Because that is, but
And then we
there's
watch
so
them.
many. You have such a good taste in these like action 2000s, 90s like speed that I haven't seen. And then I have all of these like Asian,
Yes,
for lack of a
you're
better word,
the Asian
Japanese,
expert, yeah.
Korean. I mean, there's so many great movies,
Right.
man.
I know. So we'll do that. I think what we need to do is I don't know if I'm prepared to give you 3 right now, but we need to tack it on to the end of an episode, and then
That's what I'm saying. That's why I brought it up
episode
right
would
now.
be yes. Yeah.
I'm prepared to give you like 10.
I mean, I could. Do you want to do that? I could give you 3. I could give you 3.
I don't want to force you into it. You can think about it more. We'll do it maybe next
Okay.
time. All right. Well, I think that's all we've got.
And let's also address. I think there's probably some very big movies we did not discuss today. I'll
Absolutely.
say Shawshank Redemption,
Shawshank Redemption.
a movie neither of us are very hot on.
I think it's fine. I think it's a
fine.
good movie.
It's not one of the best movies ever made.
Yeah, I don't think it's
same with The Green Mile,
Forrest
Gump. Yeah, I don't like Forrest Gump. We didn't mention
Those are all. Is Goodfellas 90s?
1990. So that's one we could have mentioned. I think we both like Goodfellas.
Is incredible.
Yeah. But we purposely didn't mention some other films.
There's so many good films.
It is.
I'm
There's
not
too many.
You're more of a hater on those than I am. I don't mind Forrest Gump. I don't mind Shawshank.
I actively dislike Forrest Gump, but Shawshank is fine. But yes, I just wanted to address that we discussed some of these films. But it is also like this truly could be a 4-part episode. Mm-hmm. There is so many movies.
I know when you proposed this idea, I was a bit overwhelmed.
It's daunting. But we wanted to do something that was maybe a little bit more approachable, and I think people hopefully will enjoy our recommendations and maybe agree or disagree with our films.
For sure. All right. Well, we appreciate it. Please, if you like it. Hopefully the audio sounds a lot better on this. Yeah, we're making them better.
I apologize for screaming in the last episode and then not being able to.
Then like your mic
you can't hear me for the second half.
Look for. I'm going to try and start clipping and add clips, so maybe that'll get some traction.
Yeah, we're going to try to do some short form content for you.
We're not looking to get a huge audience, but we'd like. But
we want our voices to be heard.
Yeah,
and we'd like to generate discussion. And
so if you have 90s movies that we haven't mentioned.
Yeah, please let us know. And I think with our short form content, we did a top 10 list today. I think that's going to be kind of the style of what we put in short form, is maybe just kind of listing off some big movies.
Or interesting stuff about movies.
Right. Yeah, that too.
Right on.
Hope you enjoyed.
Thanks so much.
Like, subscribe, and we have to mention our sponsor today, Manscaped.
Yeah. Good. Yeah, Manscaped and Blue Chew.
Yeah, Manscaped and Hims. We have.
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Cheers.